If you want more Mavericks draft videos, hit that thumbs up icon for me. It's a free and easy way to help out the channel. And as draft coverage ramps up here on Mavericks Today by Chat Sports, we will have you covered with all of the latest surrounding the big day in June, or days now, for the Dallas Mavericks. So go ahead and hit that like button, and let's get into today's show. Welcome into Mavericks Today by Chat Sports. I am Jeffrey Cooperstein. Thanks for tuning in to today's show. And on the show today, like I said, looking at potential Mavericks draft targets who they could select with the first pick that they have in the 2025 NBA draft. Before we get into the draft targets, I want to hear from you. Name someone you want the Mavericks to draft down below. Is there a name that you've been watching during the NCAA tournament that you like? If so, drop his name down below and maybe we'll talk about it here on a future show. I do want to give you a disclaimer here. This is being filmed before we know exactly where the Mavericks will be selecting in the 2025 NBA draft. So it's based on their current projection, which is the 13th overall pick. So with that in mind, let's hop right into who the Mavericks could potentially select. Number one, I'm going to go with Jeremiah Fears, the guard out of Oklahoma. Fears has been an excellent freshman for the Sooners this year en route to the NCAA tournament. This season in 33 games, averaged 17 points, 4.1 rebounds and assists, shot 43.5% from the field, did not shoot the three ball well, which is something that he will certainly have to work on at the professional level. And I wanted to shout out Nick Roloff here, who is our lead NBA draft expert here at Chat Sports. And this is what he had to say on Fears. He's 6'4" and quick, and excellent handle, who is certainly capable of being a top-tier point guard in the NBA. And with the absence of Kyrie Irving, who is going to be out for the foreseeable future with that torn ACL, may miss the entirety of next season, the Mavericks certainly need a primary ball handler, and Jeremiah Fears certainly fits that bill. I would be very interested if Nico Harrison went the Fears route in the first round. Another guy who I like, whose dad played in the NBA, Jase Richardson, who is the son of Jase Richardson, longtime player, most notably with the Golden State Warriors. Really like Jase Richardson's game, and here's what The Athletic had to say on the Michigan State guard. Few players navigate tight spaces quite like Richardson, as he has a Jalen Brunson-like ability to find creases in the defense with pristine footwork. He averaged 12 points per game this year while shooting 51% from the field, 41% from three, and 84% from the line. When I see those numbers combined with his size, he screams prototypical sixth man in the NBA to me. And the Mavericks could certainly use someone like that who can handle the ball a little bit, play on the second unit, and score in volume. It feels like that's going to be his NBA career. Now, he's a little bit undersized, and I'm not sure he'll ever be a true point guard, but the Mavericks do like those combo guards. He reminds me of someone maybe like a Jaden Hardy with a lot more skill and a lot more upside than Jaden Hardy, who's an absolute stiff. But I do like Jase Richardson, the player out of Michigan State. And one thing about Tom Izzo is he doesn't really play freshmen that often. Jase Richardson has broken into this rotation and has become a key cog for that Michigan State team. So keep an eye on Mr. Richardson from Michigan State. Tre Johnson out of Texas. You knew we couldn't do a draft video without me talking about the Texas Longhorns. Tre Johnson's a really good player, man. He is a pure scorer. I think he is the best tough shot maker in this draft. Now, that doesn't mean that he is the best overall shot maker, but if there's a contested shot with the guy in his face, Tre Johnson is the guy that's going to go get there. He can get a bucket from any spot on the floor. When you look at his statistics this season, you see the 19.8 points per game, but the efficiency isn't fantastic, especially from the floor at under 43%. Now, the three-point shot is at 39%. He's also shooting 89% from the free throw line, so he's good from three. He's good from the free throw line, but he certainly has to work on his overall efficiency. And while I do like his ability to score the basketball, there are certainly things to work on for Tre Johnson. I think he has to become a better playmaker and a better rebounder for a guy of his size at 6'6". You'd like him to be able to play the three and try to guard some threes as well, but where he currently sits, I kind of project him as a shooting guard. And while I do like that selection for the Mavs, he has certainly some skills that if he wants to be a consistent NBA player, he is going to have to develop in the league. But I do think that he is one of the, if not the best overall scorer in this draft. And I'm very excited to watch Tre in the NBA wherever he may go. The Mavericks may be out of his range. A lot of mock drafts are picking him in the top 10, so we'll see if he ends up falling. But I would like Tre Johnson if he is there at the Mavericks selection. I wanted to ask you this, though, before we get to our sponsor read here. What position do you want the Dallas Mavericks to draft? Do you want them to draft a guard, or do you want them to draft a wing? I don't think they're going to draft a big with Anthony Davis, Derek Lively, and Daniel Gafford all on the roster next season. But let me know what you guys think down below. And while you're getting your votes in there, I do need to tell you guys about our sponsor, which is PrizePicks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. PrizePicks has over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, making daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on PrizePicks. PrizePicks has a bunch of sports you can pick from, like baseball, basketball, football, hockey, all of it. You can play it on PrizePicks, the best place to win real money action in over 30 states, including California, Georgia, Florida, and Texas. They put their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. And when my picks hit, I can get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. Here are some picks that I made before the baseball season began. I went with the more on Paul Skeens strikeouts, the more on Corey Seager homers, and the more on Adolis Garcia RBI. So you can make picks like this or just make some of your own. Just make sure you do it with our friends over at PrizePicks. Download the PrizePicks app and use code CLNS to get a $50 bonus when you play your first $5 lineup. You don't even need to win to receive that bonus. It is guaranteed. Again, download the app, use code CLNS to get a $50 bonus when you play your first $5 lineup. That link will be in the comments and the description of today's show. It is PrizePicks. Run your game. Asa Newell out of Georgia is another guy that I think the Mavericks could potentially be targeting. And keep in mind, all of these guys that I've talked about on today's show are in tune with Nico Harrison's vision and what he wants in a player. He wants athletic, he wants scoring ability, and he wants defense. Even though Jase Richardson and Tre Johnson don't really give you that defense, Asa Newell certainly does. And here's what The Athletic had to say on Asa. He's averaging 15.3 points and 7 rebounds while playing consistently hard every single night. His motor has been terrific this season, and he shows possessions of real switchability on the perimeter defensively. He rotates across the play and blocks shots well. There's a lot to work with and develop. Now, the only question with Newell is whether he's going to be a power forward or a center in the league. It seems like most people think he's going to end up being a 4, but he has to develop his skills in order to do that. I really do think that he is a guy that Nico Harrison would look at and say, I can certainly work with this guy. You can work with the projectables, and he can turn into a nice NBA rotation player. So Asa Newell out of Georgia, someone to watch. And then our final guy that we're going to talk about here on today's show is Nique Clifford out of Colorado State. Colorado State had one of the best ends to the college basketball regular season in the country. And going into the tournament, some called them the hottest team in the country. And if there's one thing I know about Nique Clifford is that he is a win-now player. He's an older guy at 23 years old, so he's someone that probably is a little more polished than the rest of the guys that we talked about and maybe has a shorter lifespan as an NBA player. But I do think he's a solid defender and could help this Mavs team right away in their rotation. He just may not have the ceiling that the other 4 guys we talked about as well. And I do want to mention these guys before we all go crazy. Where's Cooper Flagg? Where's VJ Edgecombe? These are unlikely dream scenarios. Getting one of these guys would require the Mavericks to move up in the draft lottery. In the 45-year history of the Mavericks, they have not moved up one time in the draft lottery. They have only stayed pat or moved down every single time. I'm not banking on that happen again. I ran some Tankathon sim today. It took me like 20 or 35 sims for the Mavericks to move up in the draft. So don't bank on that. But if they do, we'll talk about guys like Cooper Flagg and Con Kneppel from Duke. We'll talk about VJ Edgecombe just down the road from Baylor. And, of course, the 2 Rutgers boys and Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey. If the Mavericks got one of these guys, that would be fantastic. But I just don't see it happening. And another factor that we have to implement here with the Mavericks is, are they going to draft the guy or are they going to trade the pick for a veteran? I certainly think it's possible that they trade the pick because Nico Harrison's obsessed with veterans who have a 1 to 2 year window. It wouldn't shock me whatsoever if the Mavericks traded out of this spot for an NBA veteran. What do you guys think, though? Will the Mavs draft someone or will they trade that first round pick? Type D for draft or type T for trade. If I see a lot of T's down in the comment section, I wouldn't be shocked whatsoever. Nothing at this point would shock me with what this front office does. But that's going to be it for today's show, guys. Appreciate you tuning in to Mavericks Today by Chat Sports. My name is Jeffrey Kuberstein, and of course, if anything happens, we'll keep you covered here on the channel. So hit that sub button, and we'll see you soon.